All right.
Yep.
Happy Monday, everyone. So excited to be here and so excited to be doing this artist talk with Gersom. So let's dive into it. Who am I? I'm a multimedia designer, product designer, artist, collector of shoes, designer toys, VHS, and comic books. So by career, I'm a product designer with a focus on footwear design and apparel. I am also an artist under the name Flay, creating works that deals heavily with emotions and human connections to nature, others, and oneself.
My name's Gersom. I'm an illustrator. Uh, I am inspired by comic books and video games and toys, both my toys, and I'm a gamer, as many of you are. And I'm a student, and I'm currently a junior at MassArt.
All right, so I'm gonna start the portion of my story. So my art journey, essentially, from the first time I came to the U.S. to present day. So I was born in Haiti, and I came to the U.S. at a young age. I think around 2002 or 2003. I don't really remember, but I was really young. I moved specifically to Lynn, Massachusetts, and the first elementary school I went to was Cobbett Elementary School. And for me, the English language is very difficult. I had to stay back in second grade because I couldn't grasp it at all. But I will say, the outcome of coming to the US was my love and my passion for art, essentially. So growing up in Lynn, I had not even Lynn specifically, but just growing up in the US, I had the opportunity to just, electricity 24/7. So that means I could watch TV all day. And, early 2000s cartoon was a big influence on me. And that really stayed with me even until now. So moving into middle school, essentially. So again, art was a big passion for me. And, thinking about it now, I will say art has led a lot of my connections with people, friends, and even family as well. Even so that I started a YouTube channel in hopes that I may one day be able to teach kids how to draw as well. And, that channel started as a play, just messing around, but it actually grew into something where, people were actually watching me draw in order for them to learn as well. And, that was pretty cool. But I will say another thing that I learned from this subconsciously was the idea of putting in work into your passion. So every single day, up until I graduated from high school. So we're talking early middle school to the end of high school, I was drawing every single day. I was putting in 4 hours every day into an art piece, essentially. And without really knowing, that was my way of practicing, because I am self-taught. So everything that I've learned, I had to teach myself essentially growing up. So that other slide was a bunch of pictures from my YouTube channels, but it didn't load, so that's fine. So going into high school is when I really started taking art seriously. And I got the opportunity to join this organization called Raw Artworks. And it was through Raw Artworks, essentially, that I got the opportunity to learn that art could be a career. And, I could actually take this thing that I'm really passionate about, and others only view it as a hobby, and actually make it something that's, I could live through every day. And, from Raw Artworks, I met a lot of mentors, or just people who wanted to open up doors for me and just help me essentially. And from there, I got the opportunity to go to SMFA's pre-college program. And that was next to MassArt. But at the time, I didn't know MassArt at all. I only knew SMFA. And it was through SMFA that essentially I got to learn, different art form. And it was really there that I learned that, for the longest time, I was going to be an animator. I learned that animation was not for me. It took too long. And I'm a person who likes to see a finished piece from start to finish in one single day. And then I also learned that performance art was not for me as well. It was very interesting, but I really got to see that, art wasn't just, straight up 2D, but it was different forms as well. And then from SMFA to, I would say the end of my, high school, essentially, I got the opportunity to, receive a MassArt scholarship, and then another scholarship with Adobe essentially allowed me to attend MassArt on a full ride, basically everything covered. And at that time, it was really like the height of like police brutality for me. So as a way, to sort of wrap up everything, I made this piece that was shared through Adobe's network channel, essentially. And I think it was, based on the Alton Sterling shooting, essentially. And then this is just like a bit of glimpse into like my high school portfolio. At the time, like, I'm someone who loves patterns. So I love like, taking, time out of my day to just make little tiny patterns and see them all come together. That's just how I am. Like, I'm very like into details, details matter to me, essentially. So going into MassArt, so now we're talking, the college days, essentially. MassArt, again, it's just like each stage of my life is like, leveling up or evolving, essentially, because that's how I view myself. Is like, it's an evolution. Every day I'm making an evolution, whether it's, learning a new skill or learning something new. And, at MassArt, I got introduction into a lot of various like art forms. So woodworking, ceramics, and even like, digital media. So working with digital media for my artwork. And then it was through MassArt that I got into product design. So product design is essentially, the easiest way I describe it to people, I've always said this since the time I've joined AB, is really designing everything but razors. So you could go into clothing, you could go into footwear, you could go into electronics, you can go into basically anything you could think of. And going into product design, there's like a different way of thinking. So design itself is very different from art. The way you think about it is very different. And my goal, essentially, being at MassArt, when I got into this world of design, I wanted to combine the two. Because, going into MassArt, I knew I wanted to be a straight up artist, but I also wanted to do product design. And product design is very different from being an artist. But my goal has been, even today, is just to combine the two. And then going straight, I forgot. It was through MassArt that I got introduced into Artward Bound, and it has been wonderful ever since. And then I will say, like, present day right now. So this is a bit of like my portfolio work that I've done from my time at MassArt. I graduated last summer, but these are some of my work. This project is very important to me because this is the start of the project where I realized product design, isn't necessarily straight up just like, I'm drawing like a fancy gadget, like I'm very into like streetwear culture, footwear culture, that whole culture in itself, like that hype beast culture, essentially. And, I got to actually, design something that I'm also passionate about. And then, going into footwear is another thing that I'm very passionate about. And then these are some more little sketches and renders from my portfolio as well. A lot has to do with footwear. And then now, so like these are work that I'm currently present day doing. And for me, what it is like art and design is something that's like, I'm always in it. It's a world that's always evolving. So every time I learn a new skill, I try to combine the two together. So a lot of this is Blender, so 3D modeling with After Effects, essentially combined into two, and you get these little things. And then, so we go into like my art background again, with this alias called Flay. So Flay for me was that bridge between design and art. And I wanted to come up with an identity that I could carry over into my design process, essentially. And that's where Flay came into. And, what Flay has developed into has become like a way for me to connect with others and people as well, because every piece I've made so far has resonated with someone in some way. And, they've always been able to come up with a story for it or they have like a story from their background that connects to it. And then again, the whole idea of Flay has been related to like emotions. So a lot of the paintings, I try to get as much exaggeration, movement of the strokes. So just a lot of energy in them as well. And now, so like present day again. So this is, I think this sums up basically all like my design background into my art background, and it could be also vice versa. So it's really just like understanding colors, shapes, and form and all of that. And that basically sums up what I've been doing, and and I'm still learning, I'm still evolving. So yeah, that's it.
That was awesome, Bedelyn. Now moving on to me. Um, I was born and raised in Boston. I've lived in Cambridge, and then I moved over into Boston, and I've lived in Hyde Park ever since. My ethnic background is Puerto Rican, and I don't know, it's very interesting growing up in sorry, my brain just cut off for a second. It's just very interesting, like growing up in America, being young, being told you're American, and then having like all these different foods and stuff, and which I'll come back to in the next slide. So I went to a Catholic school in Somerville called St. Catherine of Genoa School. And when I was younger, I was not proud being Puerto Rican. I was like, no, I'm American. I don't like all these like Spanish foods like yellow rice and orange chicken. What's that? And that was something that, looking back, is very strange. But where that happened, but I also found my love of comic books in elementary school. So I had started reading manga before I started reading Western comics. But one day in 5th grade, one of my best friends came to school with like a huge stack of like comics, and they weren't just like Marvel and DC, they were just like random comics. And in that pile was Fallen Sun, The Death of Captain America, which is like a post-Civil War comic where, spoilers for Civil War, at the end, Captain America is assassinated. And this series kind of follows the loss of Captain America through with each issue focusing on a single character. This issue focuses on Iron Man, and this was a huge eye-opening thing for me because as a kid with like cartoon shows like like the 90s Spider-Man and X-Men, there was not a lot of like mortality and all that. It was mostly just beat up the bad guy of the day and be happy. But in this comic, it showed the humanity of superheroes, and it just was amazing. Next slide. Middle school. So middle school was not the best time for me because I went to a Catholic school and being thrown into a public school. It was a very jarring experience. And I saw a lot more students that looked like me. Not to say that there weren't any at the Catholic school, but there were more white people than there were people of color at that school. I was in my class, I was probably one of 3 or 4 people of color there. And going to a middle school in Roxbury, Rosendale. I get those two mixed up all the time. I think it's Rosendale. Going to school in Rosendale and seeing so many kids like me was a very jarring experience. And because of the way I was raised, they didn't see me as Hispanic, and they would bully me for not being Hispanic enough. And that's what drove me to love my culture even more. So now I love everything about being Puerto Rican. I love the culture. I love the music. I love the food. I'm starting to delve into the history of Puerto Rico, but other than that, from there, I had art classes there, and one day during class, the first director of Artward Bound came to my class and presented to us Artward Bound, and what hooked me was the opportunity to work with metals, like metal smithing and making rings and stuff. And it was it's very funny thinking how that's what hooked me, and not like, go like getting prepped for college or anything. I was like, no, I want to work with fire. But yeah, so that was my middle school. And also I was the second generation of Artward Bound students. So the program has changed a lot since I was in your guys' shoes. So in high school, nothing of note really happened in high school. Just went to Artward Bound, did my work. But yeah, it was just where I knuckled down more and saw art as an actual career rather than a hobby. And what the biggest struggle in high school was that I didn't have access to art classes in high school. There was an art club, but a year after I joined the school, it was wiped out. Like the teacher just stopped doing art classes because she was paying out of pocket for all the art supplies, and she just couldn't keep up with it anymore. And so the only place I had to do art besides home was at Artward Bound. And so and on the right, that's one part of a triptych that I made for my capstone project, where I took different gods from different cultures and put them in more human scenarios, but that pertain to kind of their myth, or as close to their myth as possible. So this is Artemis as like a regular hunter, hunting. The story behind this piece was she's hunting boar. And then and then moving on to college. So I didn't have the best grades in high school. So when it came time to apply to MassArt, I was conditionally accepted. So they accepted my portfolio, but they did not. My grades weren't where they were supposed to be. So they gave me the option to go to a community college for a year, get my grades up, and also maybe fill out some of the required courses while I'm there, come back, and I would be fully accepted into MassArt. So when it came time, so I did that. When it came time to get fully accepted into MassArt, they said that I would have to wait a semester to join my class, and I was just like, I'm not, like, if I wait 4 months, I know myself enough where I will not really do much work over those 4 months. So I was just like, just put me in with the freshmen and let me go to this school. And so I'm supposed to be a senior right now, but I'm a junior at the moment. And at MassArt, I thought Artward Bound opened my eyes to different mediums, but MassArt really opened my eyes. So during my foundational year, I took my form class, and I discovered that I really like 3D work. So maybe back when the first director showed us metalsmithing, that was just like a latent thing, which is kind of funny foreshadowing. And then so I work in tradition. I don't work in traditional that much, but when I do, it's pretty cool. My preferred medium is ink, and this year I recently got into colored pencil. So So the top left is a comic I did last semester during my comic book class, which, funny enough, made me realize I don't want to do comics for a living. That's been my drive since reading that comic book in 5th grade. And at the bottom left, so just letting y'all know, like when you come to MassArt, or if you come to MassArt, be open to different things because your love and passions might change over the course of your time here. So the painting at the bottom left is a painting I did last spring. It's part of a triptych of a desert island. And on the right is a illustration I recently did where I had to tell a story in one image. No, I had to tell the creation of life in one image, which I chose the creation of a sword. And then next slide. I dabble in digital work. I might do more digital work than I do traditional. So on the left is a magazine cover I made in my word and image class, and the two characters on the right are my D&D characters in the two campaigns that I'm in. And if you'd like to know that, so the Dragonborn, the one in the middle, is named Salazar, and on the right, the Kobold is named Amden. Just want to know. So, next slide. And in my recent passion is 3D illustration. I'm currently taking a 3D course where we're using ZBrush, and we're just fooling around with 3D clay, essentially. So these are some sketches that I've made up for the class. Just some random little things. There's Salazar again. And in the next slide, here are the projects that I've been working on. We worked with text, putting a 3D object in a photo, and working on expressions. And through this class, I realized that I kind of want to get into product design more, where like making like box art for toys, designing action figures. That's something that I want to pursue now. And that's been my journey.
Thank you, Gersom. Yeah, so I think at this time, if you guys have any questions, me and Gersom are here to like answer all your questions. Now, don't everyone jump out once.
Yeah, hi. What's like, how much of a concern was finance for you guys?
Repeat that? What did you say?
Like, how much is a concern of like finances to you guys? Like tuition and stuff, you know?
Tuition. Oh. It's a bit of a worry for me. Like, well, I'm fortunate enough that my parents were just like, you go to school, we'll worry about the bill. But I do think about it a lot. It is a bit of a concern, but if you can find like some scholarships, that does lighten the load. I wish I had gone and look for some scholarships to help my parents out.
Yeah, for me, I would say, I'm always like on a little bit of a different boat, but I have a sister and brother who went through college as well, or are still in college as well. And yeah, coming from a background, where my parents didn't really make much, finance is a bit of a worry, like school, college, going through it is really cool. You get to live that experience, but after that experience, once you have to, because when I finished college and graduated, before I graduated, the first email I got was, hey, you need to fill out this survey that's going to tell us that you're going to give us back our money. That's where they greet you. They're like, hey, you had fun for 4 years. Now here's that big bill. how you gonna pay it back? So for me, you know, for my shoes, like, and I always tell people, you know, for that 4 years you're in college, like scholarships are always being put out. So, you know, you could always like fill out scholarships to cover some of it. And I know it's a bit of work. And what I also tell people is, you know, like when I had my high school, so during high school, before I finished, I dedicated like a good portion of my time, you know, other than going out to just doing scholarships. I was probably doing like 5 scholarships a week. And out of like all the scholarships I did, I only landed 2, but there were like 2 major ones that got me like a full ride, essentially. And like I'll tell you guys, like, and you know, I've been telling like the seniors that I work with, like scholarships, like, you know, free game, like scholarship is money. And like if you acquire like a ton of scholarships, they're not gonna take that money away. They're still gonna give it to you, and you can still utilize all of that. So, you know, as Gersom said, you know, of course, you know, college is fun, but you know, at the end of the day, you got to think about how you're gonna pay back that money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. That was really insightful.
All right, keep all the other questions rolling, guys. We're here all day.
Bedelyn, I remember you said that your artist alias was derived from like a Haitian word, but I forget what it was you said that the definition of it was. Can you repeat?
Yeah, so like Flay came from, I guess like I'll tell like a little bit of a story. It was because I remember it, like for me, like I'm always like consuming art, whether it's like night and morning. And it was like my sophomore year in college, and it was one night, and you know, all the big artists that influenced me, they had like, cause like they would put out like little toys and stuff like that, and I was consuming those toys, but I realized I'm doing a lot of consuming, and I'm admiring, but I also want people to admire, you know, what I do as well. You know, how can I do the same thing? And then I also realized that a lot of my work never actually showed my background as a Haitian person, you know what I mean? You know, so, you know, coming to America at a young age, like I didn't really get to experience the culture a lot. And all my work is always like, as a Black artist as well, you know, it's always about like the struggles and what's going on in America, never about, you know, my background in Haiti. So I figured a good way to just like permanently like embed, like whenever someone asks, what does that mean? Oh, it's a Haitian word. It means flower in Creole. And the reason why like I chose you know, Flay essentially was because, you know, flowers comes in different colors. And, you know, it's about connecting with others, people, and, you know, just different background altogether. And that's basically like the whole summary of it.
Thank you.
Al in the chat says, do you guys do commissions? And if so, how do you find said commissions?
I have no interest in doing commissions. It's a nice way to make money, but I just don't want to deal with people because all I've heard were horror stories of how people have gotten bad clients, how a client is just like, this looks great, but can you just completely change it? And so I just don't really want to step into that world. Maybe somewhere down the line, but at the moment, no.
Mm-hmm. So I do commissions, but I'm also like, you know, I don't put my title as like a freelancer. So for me, like, okay, here's another free game, guys, free game. So like as an artist, online presence, okay? So this is really important. And if you start building your online presence right now, you're gonna have a platform by the time, you know, if you go to college or as you get older, that platform is gonna be very pitiful for you. Because in my industry, what I've learned is like a following is super important because you can have experience, which is really important. But if you have like a following behind you where people are saying like, oh yeah, you know, I really mess with your work and I really like it. And this is like so dope. Like people are gonna respect that. And that's where I get all my commissions essentially is through Instagram. And like, of course, like Gersom is right. You know, out of like 5 commission, people who come through, they're like really flaky. I had one person who I worked with from New York, and it was just for like a simple illustration, and I finished it and I sent it over, and I never heard back from him.
Wasn't there that client that wanted you to redraw a coffee cup like 20 times?
No, so that was a different client.
No, I know, but I just remember that client, and every day over the summer, you're just like, man, this client, he doesn't know what he wants.
Yeah, so I had this client who wanted me to retrace a Google image drawing, like a couple drawing, and essentially like send it to him so he can use it as a logo. And that whole summer, like working with the other staff, like I would talk every day about how I had to draw coffee cups every time I finished and I went home. Like it was just coffee cups. And then in the end, he was like, this is not working. And I'm like, of course it's not working. How do you expect me to redraw a charcoal drawing? It's like, that's super hard. Like it's a loose drawing, like it's a loose sketch. How can I replicate? And first of all, it's a drawing from Google Image. You don't know who it belongs to. So that copyright. But luckily he did pay me for my time. But I literally wasted my whole summer just like drawing coffee cups.
Policies. Also, from what I've been because a lot of my peers, they are thinking about doing commissions and all that stuff. Like one of my girlfriend's best friends, she's like, should I like do these dog paintings? She does like these amazing paintings of animals, and she's like, how much should I like ask them? And a lot of people just kept telling her what you think is the right price. She's like, maybe $200. They're like, no, upscale that to like $500 because you're putting in all that work and you got to see that money back.
Yeah.
So whatever you think is the right price for your work, that's the price you should charge for it.
No,
I stumbled.
So for me, that's always like the hardest thing is actually coming up with a way to give like a big estimate of how much your work is worth or the value of you as an artist. But Gersom is right. But as you go further in your life as an artist, saying like, just a rough number of how much it's worth is kind of too vague. So here's what I've done, right? So basically my illustration work, I would calculate how long does that take me to finish it? Does it take a week? And then think about the hours, right? And then from there, you look at like you as an artist, you have that background, like how much money an artist making typically, and it could be like, let's say, like for me, what I do is like 40 an hour, right? So 40 an hour plus the amount of hours it took me to finish a piece, multiply that together, and whatever number I get, that's the number. And that's basically it. And you stand by that number because that's your time essentially. So yeah. And also like the other thing as well is like, it all plays into when you're starting. So the more commission you get under your belt, the more confident you'll be behind standing by your work, as well as just the numbers you be sending out. And I still get like the jitters every time I send like huge numbers, because I think for me recently, I had like a wake up call where I was talking with like a lot of my mentors and about like potentially giving out like some numbers for a client. And, what was smart they did was they didn't give me a right number. They told me to solve it for myself. And whatever number I get in the end is just to send it out. And I got this huge number and I was scared to send it out to the client. But, the thing is, it's like I sent it out and the client gave me some weird like response, but it was vague, but it was basically like oh yeah, this is too pricey, I'm going to leave. But the thing about that is like, I really save myself the headache from complaining about the work throughout, because that's usually what I do is like, I'll say, yes, I can do it for this number. But as I'm making the piece, I realize I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting the material and I'm just not happy. I'm spending like a month on a piece and I'm not happy, and I should be getting paid way more. So those big numbers, they do play, and they'll make you sleep at night. So
if there's like one, I don't want to say like it's a problem, but like the one thing that like I don't agree with a lot in the like what in MassArt's curriculum is that they kind of, especially like I'm an illustrator, so this is coming from an illustrator's perspective, but they mostly teach you how to be an editorial illustrator, because that's kind of how it used to work back in the day. Editorials made money. They still kind of do. But they don't teach you how to like promote yourself, to brand yourself, how to get a presence online. They kind of just like let you do that on your own. And I kind of wish they would have a class, or like have an elective class about that. I think they might, but I don't know. So that's kind of like my gripe, is like, I want to have a bigger presence. I just don't know how.
Chandra asks, do you all sell or promote your work? If so, how? Also, how do you define success as an artist, and what's the path after MassArt?
I don't know. Honestly, like I have this like post MassArt. I kind of accept that I might not have like a job in the art field, but I will get a job by the end of, like, after I graduate, because I need something to keep me afloat while I pursue while I try to pursue this career path. And that's what a lot of art students go. They come in, do art, like they go to art school, and then when they graduate, they're like, I thought I would have a job. Oh no, I just wasted 4 years on this degree. So it's kind of like, you just have to go into with the mindset that like, you might not come out with a job at the end of school, but if you're very serious about your, like, this career path, you'll find a way to like make it the #1 like career. Like you can quit the normal job and live off art.
Yeah, I'll say, like, you know, to Gersom's point, I think one of the most important things you need to keep in mind is that passion and the reason why you got into like the art making itself. And like, I'm just gonna tell you straight up, like, that whole idea of like finishing art school and not getting a job, that's not true. Okay? Because at the end of the day, where it comes into is like, is you the person, how motivated you are, and how much work you're really putting into this career that you're fostering, and like how far you want to go with it. For me as an artist, like, you know, when I think, like, if I think right now, like I've been really successful. Like, you know, I finished school, and like I'm in the middle of like, I'm about to be like 1 year out of college essentially. And I may not be doing like the apparel and footwear design gig that I'm doing, but like I've gotten like so many opportunities, or I've done so many things where it's just like I'm thriving. I'm growing, and like I'm happy. And that's the thing, you know, like as long as you're happy and you're able to go day by day and not feel like, oh, like I'm not doing this or I'm not doing that, like that's all it is. And the other side of it is to not judge another person's success on yourself as well, because like the art field itself is so different. And on one more thing, the very important thing is like, when you get an art degree, what you do with it is not necessarily like so like restricting. Just because you're an illustrator does not mean all the jobs you're gonna do are for illustration, actually. And I learned that the hard way, because essentially I know people who finish you know, illustration, and they're like in the apparel, like in the design field essentially. And I've had like mentors who I've been speaking with at Reebok. They're like, yeah, you know, people we hire are like illustrators. They're on the graphic design team as well, designing graphics for like t-shirts. The thing is, you need to like when it comes to this whole career thing, it's just be open. You have this skill, this way of thinking under you. Like, how can you just utilize it to like help people, whether it's a company or essentially just drive anything basically. And what else was I gonna say? I think that's it, actually. I think that's it. And I wanted to answer Kai's question. I think Kai was asking about like the Earth Day T-shirt. That was last week. But yeah, like I feel like that's like a very like, you know, bad thinking, you know, is this whole idea where like, you know, you get a degree and as soon as you finish college, like a job is waiting for you, like right and open. And that's not it, you know, it's really just like every other degree requires like the same amount of hard work and the same amount of passion for it as well. And that's basically it. And then back to like, how do you promote yourself as an artist, essentially? And for me, like I said, if you know you have the passion and the motivation to be an artist and whatever you do with that skill set, that's really all you really need. And when it comes to promoting yourself as an artist, I use Instagram a lot. And I feel like Instagram is like the easiest way to like connect with like a lot of people. And you know, the weird thing about that is like, I don't know if you guys know the designer, like Virgil Abloh, like, and that's through using like Instagram, right? So he had like this whole Zoom event essentially where he was just talking with like various like, you know, artists and designers. And he invited everyone to like the Zoom call. And it was through Instagram essentially. And, you know, I got through there and talking with all the people that were on the call, they were all artists themselves. And I met all those people, and all those people are from LA to like Boston. And we have like a big group chat essentially on Instagram where we're just utilizing each other's skills to essentially achieve what we're trying to achieve. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing about promoting yourself is really just having a presence, whether it's documenting your work that you're doing every day and just keeping that presence alive. That's how I've done it. And I've had like you know, good success with it. I've had like the weird, like the one of the weirdest thing that I knew that it was working in some way is when I had some, you know, a nice man from Canada reach out to me about collecting my work. And, you know, at first I thought it was like really BS because I've never had people, you know, from that afar reach out to me. And it was legit because I had a whole FaceTime call with the man and he described what he wanted. And I actually, you know, I have a painting living in Canada in his house. So like, you know, I appreciate people. I'm like, yo, Instagram is really like, it's the way.
Yeah. and like, yeah, the whole networking aspect, like I know most of y'all like anime, y'all like comic books, so go to cons, go to the artist alleys at cons, talk to the people at the cons. And if you show up at different cons more and more times and you see the same people, they'll recognize you and they'll know you. And like, there's the whole thing of like, oh, am I using this person like for my own benefit? And it's like, yes, you are essentially, but like, you're not like, it's not in a bad sense. It's more of like improving yourself. And it's good to come like at that person as a friend rather than you like coming at them like as a tool or a means to an end. Like try to foster a friendship with that person and it will feel less scummy. That's because I felt that way, like trying to network with people. It's like, oh, I feel like I'm using them. I feel like, oh, I feel bad about it. And it's like, no, like don't feel bad about it. Just like come at it from a friendly perspective and it'll be fine.
As well as like it's like, because I've had a conversation about that with Sandra. You know, it's about like what you can receive and what you can give. You know what I mean? And people can read people. You know what I mean? If you're so genuine, and to Gersom's point, he's really right when it comes to like, you know, networking or trying to get yourself out there. It's really just like talking with people. And when you talk to people, it's not about oh, I want something from you, but it's really like I want to understand how you got to where you are because I want to be in your same shoes. I want to learn. And if they can see that, they're going to give you like so much insights. And to that point, like LinkedIn is a great tool, especially if you want to look into like your specific niche. For me, it's like footwear and designers. So I've reached out to a lot of, you know, people who work at, you know, Reebok, New Balance, and all of those people. And you'll be surprised that these people are willing to like take time out of their day and really just like talk to you through Zoom and just give you like feedbacks and just connect with you. And then to also Gersom's point as well, like if you're really into like whatever whatever you're into, and you're able to like, you know, see people face to face, whether it's cons, like, you know, get their emails and, you know, talk with them and keep that connection alive. Because people do remember people, especially if it's like a genuine connection.